James joins us. James Ham here, the Insiders. James, it felt like the Kings would try to make some headway, but then there'd be like a 10-0 run or a 12-0 run. And that's always what it was. It was never 10-2, 10-4. It was like 10-0 run from the Thunder, 12-0 run from the Thunder. I don't know how many goddamn daggers the Thunder hit yesterday, but at least 7 of them. But yeah, just multiple runs. And James, I never felt like the Kings were in a good position to get that one yesterday.
No, it didn't feel like it at all. Like I mean, it was from the opening tip. You can see where this team is going pretty early. And again, we had a couple of check-in moments. I think like Malik Monk checked in and we saw some really nice minutes from Keegan Murray. Domantas Sabonis looked really good. But overall, you just kept waiting for the other guys to figure it out, and they never did. Especially, let's just be honest. De'Aaron Fox didn't look like he was at all engaged in the game. And I don't know what the deal is with some of these games, but it just didn't look like it was his day, right?
Yeah,
he had no steals in that game.
Yeah,
which is a
16,
really
16
odd stat
straight.
for him.
And
wow.
And for what from what I could gather, he didn't do much the first 3 quarters and then woke up in the fourth quarter, right? And was kind of active everywhere on both the offensive end and on the defensive end in that fourth quarter, but it was a little too late. And maybe he is injured, maybe he's playing through something or whatever, but they got to find a way to get Fox back active. You talk about Friday's game. I think he could have and should have scored a little bit more, but his activity, he was a menace on that defensive end on Friday night. And yeah, if he's scoring 17, I gotta have him playing defense the way he was on Friday in those games. It can't be both.
Yeah, I totally get it. I know Kevin O'Connor, who is everybody's favorite out there in the world in Sacramento, and I'll give him credit for putting this tweet out, but not for he didn't put the reverse tweet out, which would be the Sabonis stats during the same time. But he asked, "What's up with De'Aaron Fox?" He said, "First 26 games, 30 points, 53.8% from the field, 39.8% from 3, 71.6 from the free throw line, 21.9 field goal attempts per game, 6.1 assists, 4.6 rebounds, and a 32 usage percentage." And those numbers in the last 20 games are 21.8 points.
Shout out to Kevin O'Connor, who's clearly a listener of this show. We did this entire exercise long before he posted this tweet.
Yeah.
What would be a good idea is if I looked at these numbers.
No, he put this up like 4 hours ago. So
yeah, we did
at
this
least
last week.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying,
Shout out Kevin O'Connor. We appreciate you. Credit us next time, jackass. But it's fine.
Just
sorry. Sorry, Ham. I destroyed your point, but go ahead.
But you understand the point is, like, in the last 21 games, he just hasn't been the same player. Mm-hmm. And we can say it might be an injury. We can whatever. Like, I don't know what it is. But he seems like he's someone who needs to take a couple of days off and just kind of take a break. And of course, he gets that. Yeah. He gets that on Thursday, but it's very glaring. And it's also the moment he steps on the court, you either know that he's got it or he doesn't. And I don't know how, like Mike Brown, like how do you coach up a team not knowing whether your best player is going to be the guy or a guy? And that's really difficult, especially, I mean, he's down to 26.4 points per game. Like, we're talking about a guy who was at well over 30 for a good portion of the first half of the season.
19, 12, 15, and 15. Those are his point totals since the 41-point game against Chicago. The Kings, of course, are 1-3 in those games, with the one win being a 29-point win. In Denver, I think, or against Denver, excuse me. Context, it is important. De'Aaron had 10 assists in that game, along with 5 steals, and everybody ate. So, like, you can isolate numbers to come up with averages and do different things like that. I wouldn't quantify that as a bad game for De'Aaron Fox, but the scoring numbers are certainly a bit head-scratching. As you laid out there, James, it felt like he was a dominant scorer through the first 30 games of the season. In the last 20 games, not so much. We could speculate. I mean, maybe we'll get some answers if he is dealing with something, pushing through something. Obviously, everyone sees him favoring his shoulder at least once through a game. But if it is something about rest, if it is something about fatigue, he's going to have some time to get right over the next couple of days here.
Yeah, I expect him to be a different player coming out of the All-Star break. You get some time away, you spend time with the family, you kind of hit the reset button, all that stuff. But, it's just weird. The whole thing is strange. And it's not just like on the court, you can see a player. I mean, like, look, I've watched every single game he's ever played as a pro without any question. Like every game he's ever played, and then all of a sudden you see that something's wrong. And I don't even want to say like I see him favoring his shoulder or anything. It just feels like he doesn't have like the motivation, or he doesn't have like, I don't know, like the want to be there sometimes. And
Mm.
it's very strange to me because, we saw it play out with even off the court with the media stuff where he didn't want to talk to the media for like a couple of weeks, and whatever. That's not a big deal. I just I'm watching him as a player, I'm watching him off the court. He seems fine when I see him in the locker room and stuff, and he seemed perfectly fine talking with Malik Monk on Friday night when they did the comedy duo routine and post game, which was like perfectly fine with me. But at the same time, like, where is that joy on the court? Because that's what might be missing. It looks like there isn't any joy in his game, and I don't know how else to put it. He just looks like he's not right.
Yeah, I see the same things everybody else is seeing, and I guess what we're all hoping is that first of all, you can muster something up for these next 2 games, but
Yeah.
after that, maybe the break will rejuvenate him. Maybe it's a emotional and mental fatigue that's going on, and he just needs a couple days to clear his head, and he'll come back for that you know second half or past the halfway point,
Second
but you know what I
part.
mean,
Yeah.
second part of the season, and be ready for this stretch run. But I see the same thing everybody else is seeing, man, and they need him. They need him to be the guy he was earlier in the season if they're going to try and get to this next level.
Yeah, and it's always possible that he's just taking a little bit of a back seat and saying, "Hey, look, if I can't do this on my own, and me and Domas can't do it on our own, we need these other guys to wake up." And so maybe that's part of it, that he wants a Harrison Barnes to start going. He wants, Kevin Herter to start figuring it out, and he's
Well,
trying to get everybody else involved. But
his buddy has like over those stretch, all those the games in the teens that we just laid out. Uh, Malik over the last 6, 23, 22, 18, 23, 23, and 26. That was after 5 of 6 games being in single digits. So over this last little stretch, Malik has really is on the offensive end really showed out a little bit.
it almost looks like Malik knows there's something going on, and he's
Mm.
trying to take over for his buddy. Like he's trying to be the spark plug to make sure that they're in games. And like, look, everyone keeps saying, "Well, if you look over 10 games or 15 games, they really aren't playing that bad." It's like, yeah, but they're 1-3 in their last 4. Like, it hasn't been great, and you've lost to, of course, worst team in basketball during that stretch. You beat
Yeah.
probably the best team in basketball over that stretch, and that's where I think that this thing kind of like, it's so confusing. Who are you? What exactly are you going to be this season, and how do you fix whatever it ails you at this point? It's very strange.
And I'm not sure they can. I
Mm.
think I think what somebody asked me over the weekend what I thought of. They're not a Kings fan, but they're like, "Yo, what's up with your Kings, man? How you feeling or whatever?" And I sat there and I had to give them an honest assessment of I think they're fine. I think they're a very solid team. And what I really want for them, which actually hasn't really changed since the beginning of the season for me or last summer, make the playoffs, get in the playoff series. That's would make me happy or feel like it was a successful season, then get into the summer and try and figure out what it is you need to get to the next level, because I don't know if they have what it takes right now to get to the next level. And what I mean by that is winning a playoffs. Like I think they have enough talent and they could win a playoff series depending on who they play. But as far as being like a true contender in the Western Conference, I don't know if they have that right now. And I think this shouldn't be their goal, but I'm just saying I'm looking at this team like just get to the playoffs, get to a playoff series. If they were to lose like in the play-in and not make the playoffs, I'm not, breaking any news. That would be disastrous, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now the standings don't look good. They're seventh in the Western Conference. They're a half game out of fifth, but they're also only a half game ahead of Dallas for the eighth spot. Like this is not a comfortable position to be in. It's not where if you're the Kings where you thought you would be or where you'd hoped you'd be. And sure you got time here to fix it, but I think last season we talked about it. Like we need to see what this team looks like after the deadline, right? And what they look like coming out of the All-Star break. And lo and behold, they were incredible. They're one of the best teams in basketball. Now, we keep having this situation here where everyone's like, well, they have the same record they had last year. Okay, but does everyone forget how good they were in the second after the All-Star break last year? Like in order for them to reach what they did last year, they're going to have to be really, really good. And I don't know, that's not what they're trending towards right now. That's not where they're heading. So they're not only going to have to, crank it up, but like by a lot. Like this is not the same team that we saw last year. And they do feel like something's off and something's weird on some nights. And I don't know how else to put it. They have a little bit of time to figure it out and to, solidify themselves as like a 5-6 spot, but there's no promises that's where they're going to end up. This team is a bit of a mess from one night to the next.
But I think that's the biggest thing, because as much as maybe some people scoff at it, you do pull back, and they were 7-10. Like I don't care how you put it, 7-3 in 10 games I'll take it. Like you could be looking like scrubs for 7 games, but I'll take the win. Like you have that. I think it's the game to game nature of not knowing. Like once again, we could last year, we weren't sure if they were going to win or not, but you knew they were going to come to play. You knew they were going to show up. And this year, you don't know if they're going to show up every night. And I think that's what has people uneasy. But that also doesn't mean that they won't show up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think people look at that aspect of the Kings and like, man, they're no good because you don't know what you're getting from night to night. That also means you could get what you got on Friday against Denver. You just don't know. And I think that has myself and others uneasy about this team.
No, I mean, and I think it's like we're at that place where you have to talk about it, right? So they went into the All-Star break last year 33-25. They finished the season, is that what it was? 33 or 32? 32-25. So they finished the season 16-9. And you can even take away like the last 3 games where they just like said they mailed it in, right? So that record looks more like 16-6. Do you think this team has a 16-6 run coming out of the break in them? I don't know.
Well, why
That's
can't
a
they,
tough thing.
Yeah, they have the capability. Will they? I don't know, but it's 16-6. If we're just looking at, I'm just doing numbers, right? 16-6 is 10 games over 500. They're 8 games over 500 right now. Like it's not inconceivable
far off of their
that
average.
they can get 16-6 in the
Don't have multiple 3-game losing streaks. Just have one 3-game losing streak.
But to Ham's point, and to what I was saying, if you asked me to bet D'Lo's money on it, I'm like, that's not a bet I'm taking. Like, I'm not touching this team with the 10-foot pole as far as like grander expectations, because you just don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. We don't know.
I do know Davion Mitchell's been playing really well. I do know we saw Davion and Keon together yesterday to, I think, a level of success. Like, I thought they played pretty well yesterday. I mean, results are in the the win-loss column, but I thought Keon was super active on the defensive end. We wondered what Keon's, restructured contract would mean. I think Davion has been extraordinary since getting back into the lineup. And it was a nice little wrinkle to see him out there with Keon. I don't know how often Mike does that. I don't know if he does it. The minutes felt like they came at the expense of Kevin Herter, who I'm sure Mike was all too happy to pull out of the game. But I thought that was a nice little wrinkle. What'd you think of that combo there, James? And more specifically, how Davion has played of late? Because you are a notorious Davion Mitchell hater.
Yeah. So I know you. I love it. Yeah.
You hate when I do that. I apologize. James is not a Davion Mitchell hater.
It's fine. When he starts walking into threes with confidence and hitting them like that's I think at this point he has to show something, right? So I've always said, hey, I just need him to look like he's part of everything, and that's how I think he can earn his way onto the court. Well, at a certain point, like he has to do something else, right? And so the confidence that he's showing and his ability to hit the three ball, like it does add another element to his game. I think he's a really good defender, and I like the same. I'll say the same thing about Keon Ellis. I think Keon Ellis is he's longer, he's more athletic, getting through screens than Davion is. But the other thing I'll point out is Davion Mitchell throughout his career, he's not been a good rebounder at all. And there's been multiple games during this stretch where I remember him coming up with a big rebound in traffic, kind of mixing up with the trees. So over his last 11 games, he's shooting 45% from three. He's averaging 5 points and 1.8 assists and 1.6 steals. 1.6 rebounds. But just the way he's playing is with more confidence. He's not turning the ball over a bunch. He's just he's out there doing the job of the backup point guard. And I think that's all you can ask. He's starting to get a little bit more minutes here and there. They are starting to steal minutes from some of these other players who haven't played well. And I'd even say like there's the trickle down with this team where you see that, if Harrison's not playing well, then Kevin sometimes moves over and plays more three. And then you see more Malik. And then you start seeing like you're starting to see a little bit more of this team go smaller and go guard heavy. And that's a good thing for Davion. It's a good thing for Keon. That's how you're going to get on the court if you can be impactful and kind of show that you belong.
Yeah, I hope they can work the scenario where both of them find a way to play. I mean, and I think some of that is going to probably be there with Duarte's injury, how long he's going to be out. It may make them a little smaller in the situation, but now you got the Sasha situation that is lingering where he can't get right with the ankle. He'll be out for a little while. So, I feel like it could help them defensively on the perimeter having those two in the rotation. I think those are two really good defenders against guards like SGA. Now SGA was phenomenal yesterday, but they'll make them work. And much like I always talk about, it allows Fox to not have to guard SGA and use all his energy on the defensive end. So I hope maybe Mike and Jordy and everything can find a way to get those guys in there.
They had Chet on De'Aaron in the first half. Like, I was like, oh, did they switch? Like, what's going on here? And like 3 plays later, I was like, hey, Chet's still guarding De'Aaron. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to argue against because De'Aaron tried to get a couple up over him, and it was like, it ain't
tough shot.
Yeah, it ain't work.
Yeah.
That was just a tough day for Sacramento overall. I'm big into the emotional aspect of sports. Like we talk about this all the time. We just talked about the emotional aspect of the San Francisco 49ers pushing that boulder back up the hill next year to try to get to the Super Bowl. I think there was a certain component to the Oklahoma City Thunder yesterday. They had lost 2 in a row. They were a little bit more desperate than Sacramento, but they had also, like, you've gotten your ass beat by Sacramento. I didn't realize it was 8 times. I thought the Kings had won like 5 of the last 6 or something like that. I didn't realize they had won 8 in a row.
Damn.
And like, it's like, hey, you can hear the pep talk now. Way we're a good basketball team. We're one of the top teams in this conference. We need to go take care of this. We can't keep losing to these guys. We could see them in the playoffs. Let's go get the job done.
Yeah.
And they played with a you are not going to beat us again mentality. And the Kings didn't have that counterpunch. They tried again. I'm not. It's one of those things that you feel, right? We talk about this all the time, James. Did you ever feel like the Sacramento Kings were going to lose the game, right? Well, yesterday was a case where I never really feel like Sacramento was going to win. Even when they made that run, it's just like, I don't think they can get over the hump. And the Oklahoma City left the window open for them a couple of times, and they just didn't have enough to convert.
Well, it's not even having enough to convert. They just couldn't stop anybody. So, that's where it comes down to. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're at a certain point, if it teams up on you by 15 and you want to exchange baskets with them, like any team in the league's like, all right, that's fine. That's what we're going to do. We'll sit here. You get an open shot. We'll get an open shot. Okay, that's fine. We're the one with a 15-point lead. And until they buckle down and decide to stop somebody, and it's not always easy. I mean, again, Shea gets like some of the most ridiculous foul calls of all time. And you're just sitting there like, yeah, it's very strange how he gets away with whatever. And it's almost like he does it so nonchalantly that you don't catch it all the time. But it wasn't just him. I mean, they couldn't stop Jalen Williams at all.
Oh,
so
man. He was tremendous.
He was cooking.
Yeah, he was. I mean, they combined for 70 points between those two, and that's just crazy. So yeah, it's one of
Almost
those
had a
things.
triple double.
Yeah.
Thomas doing what he does, man.
Though, like I'm watching his triple doubles, and I'm waiting for one that I'm thinking, oh, he's just stretching there trying to get a number. Like,
no, it's just the game. Like it's just the way. It's just
what he does.
It's just the flow of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, he's out there just giving it his all every single time, and he's a lot of games lately. Again, you're waiting for those other players to check in. He's doing his thing, and then one other guy usually is doing his thing, and then again, Monk will come in and be like, "All right, let's do this. I'm ready." And so you're just waiting for other guys to figure it out, and it's just taken way too long in a lot of these games for you to get up to 3 or 4 guys who are actually like ready to go and trying to make a difference in a game.
I have a question.
We're in a tough spot, huh?
It's gonna piss everyone off.
Oh boy.
Are you going to ask me after the break?
I can't ask you now because it'll. No, I'll
Go for it.
Do it. Do it
We can
now.
go to break right now if you want.
Okay, let's go to break because this question's really gonna piss everyone off.
Oh no!
And it's a question though. Let me be clear. I'm asking a question.
Should the Kings trade De'Aaron Fox coming from D'Lo next?
Well, for Ben Simmons, we'll come back. We'll talk more.
Delete that.
We'll talk. Well, it wouldn't be the first time. We'll come back. We'll talk with James Ham. I'm going to ask a question. That's all I'm going to do.
I'm dreading
I'm a
it.
broadcast journalist.
I'm dreading it.
D'Lo and Casey return here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. No. I'm just going to ask a question.
Is it going to be a 2-part question? Because
Should Keegan smile more? That's it. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
There it is.
This is gonna go so bad.
Is it time to blow this thing up?
It's gonna go so bad.
Tell me again, I can be lovers and free.
We got through a Super Bowl that honestly could have gone either way. And the whole time I was just thinking, this is such a tremendous game. Like win, lose, or draw, like you're just sitting there for all the new people who are brought into football this year with the Swifties and all that. And like everyone's huddled around their TV. Like what a tremendous game. And I know it didn't go Niners' way, but my goodness. Like that was some of the best football watching. Just like great defensive plays, and I don't know.
I haven't seen the numbers for the game yet. Are we sure the Swifties are a thing? Have we been able to verify that that's real?
We can't verify.
Not the Swifties. The Swifties are obviously
we can't
real.
verify anything the NFL does.
Well,
No.
I told you, man, they doing something. I'm gonna figure it out. When I figure it out,
you are.
I'll let everybody know.
You figure out why ESPN put JJ Redick on the NBA Finals?
No,
He did that.
not at all. I did not figure that out. Who asked for that?
See, Tom L is trying to start stuff here in the chat. There you go.
What Tom?
Yeah, Tom. No, I can, Tom. I can just talk about my fantasy basketball team if you'd like.
What's your fantasy basketball team?
It's they're called the Ham Sandwiches, but yeah, I'm in a 14-man league with some Kings fans.
I believe Doug once requested a ham sandwich on the television broadcast.
He called me ham sandwich all the time.
I think he was like, well, we got a Woj bomb. Can we get a ham sandwich? Like, why didn't you? I think it was the Tyreek stuff, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that reminds me. We get I talked to the man himself, man. We got Mark Jones ready.
Okay.
This week.
I always have Mark Jones ready, and then I don't get him. Not that he flakes out, but it's like he's so tough to pin down because of his schedule.
Yeah, it's tough guy to keep up with.
Yeah, he is a tough guy to keep up with.
But it felt like it was forever since I had heard him. And I texted him on Friday. I was like, hey, man, it was good hearing you, man. I feel like I ain't heard you in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, thank you. And he said, I got some time this week, man. Let's talk. All right.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Clear understanding of the rules.
Yeah, Tom. He's going to be around a lot in the second half of the season, from what I know.
That reminds me, we didn't talk about it. I meant to talk about it. Did you guys have a lot of issue with the fact that the 49ers players didn't know much about the overtime rules and the Chiefs players were prepared for it?
Grasping for straws, I think.
No,
I didn't think they made. I think they made so much out of that because, like, I was sitting there watching the game. It was overtime. I was like, "Oh snap! I think the new overtime rules are going out because it's the postseason." And in like 15 seconds, I was like, "Oh yeah, both teams have a chance to have the ball," and that was it. Like, it wasn't this. Well, I'm so confused, and I don't know what we're gonna do here.
That's I think there was another part to the rule that actually did I'm not sure I completely understood because, again, my quarterback, I think it was one of his rough moments last night. I'm like, the clock's going to expire. Like, what happens if the clock expires?
To my understanding, they treat it like a game. You just
nothing. Like, absolutely nothing happens. I thought it goes into the second overtime, but normally the second overtime is like you start over.
Right.
No, it was just you move.
Just kept going. Yeah.
I thought I didn't know that until it was happening. I was like, "What's going on?"
And then I think a lot of
people are going to run out of time
because they were like, "Oh, they could have used more time. They gave Patrick Mahomes more time in the overtime." The time didn't.
The game wasn't going to end in a tie.
Like you could have essentially not had a clock in that.
Right. That's that. Yeah. Right.
Right. I wasn't paying attention to any of that. I was just watching, like, thinking, "Oh no, you gave Mahomes the ball. Now you're in trouble."
Yeah.
I even thought you got it to, what is it, 4th and 3 at the 9? Like it's a Super Bowl. You're gonna lose. If Mahomes gets the ball, you're gonna lose.
That's not necessarily true. Mahomes has lost plenty of times.
But the defense was playing well too. Like I get it. No, we're coming back, James. Hang on. More second guessing of the coaches going on during the commercial break. Coaches, the single coach.
Real quick, because I want to hear your question. We're talking Kings and everything, but I checked on something, and I believe I'm reading this right. On all the betting websites, the Niners are the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year.
I figured they'd be up there.
I didn't know
they'd be favored over Kansas City.
Yeah, I thought Kansas City might be it.
Because you never get
Baltimore.
bet against Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure if you guys have heard that.
Don't do that. The Eagles
I'm
are
not.
like 9th.
What's the bet for them not to make the playoffs?
I'll take that one.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. To be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me.
It's just I like I said, I feel like I'm
It's
on
tough.
the team. I feel like I've gone through that season.
Well, you did.
And I'm like, we got to do that again.
Hopefully there's no sound bites of George Kittle talking about, we're going to be back here. We're going to do it next time. I hope that doesn't exist. George, hey, now George is trying.
They got to Kyle got to get him the ball too, though. Got to find a way to get him the ball.
Yeah.
Got to find a way. I will say that about Kyle.
Your playmakers
get
will
him
be
the
back.
ball.
Playmakers will be back, James. I think the 49ers will be in good shape next year.
Yeah, I think they'll be just fine.
So here's the question. We have fun, right? And we sell merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
I've used the term before, but I'm going to ask you both respectively.
I know where you're going now. Wow.
No, I'm asking. What does empty calories mean? No, I'm asking a question. Can you stop laughing? I'm trying to be serious. I'm asking, what does empty calorie? I know what it meant when I said it. I used to say that about James Harden. James Harden, you could look at James Harden's points in the playoffs and you'll see, oh, it's not James's fault. You like, especially now, you look back at some of his. He had 36 in this game. Yeah, he scored like 20 of them when they were down 20 and the game was over. That's empty calories. The production he was putting out on the court didn't matter when he was doing it. So I want to ask you two, what is empty calories?
So I'll go. My explanation might be a little shorter than Ham's. I'll say, and I like this guy a lot. You know what I mean? I want him here. But Kyle Kuzma, his numbers are empty calories. He's putting up 20-something a night on one of the worst teams in basketball. They have no bearing whatsoever. Not saying that he has the structure around him. It's not all his fault. But his 20 a night, like, it's not, it don't mean nothing. To your original point, though, like Harden and his 20 and stuff like that, at least he's doing that with a winning team. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's doing it with one of the top teams. So his 20 a night, whether it might come late in the fourth quarter or all this other stuff. But
you're right. I was more speaking to James in the playoffs. But
no, that's fair too. I'm just even that he's in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have kind of meaningless numbers and stuff like that, but he's doing it in the playoffs. Whereas Kyle's doing this with the team with 9 wins. To me, maybe I give a little bit more leeway with empty calories. That's empty calories to me. What you think, James?
Yeah, I mean, empty calories means there's no substance to what you're doing. That you're just putting up stats to put up stats. And like, I'll just point to Christian Wood, right? Christian Wood puts up monster numbers for a couple of years, like close to 20 and 10, 18 and 9. But every time he steps on the court, his team is
3:35 is the official time.
Everybody catch the screenshot too. Screenshot now.
3:35 is the official Ham freeze. What's amazing is like James is in like 4K. Like James froze in 4K.
This is a solid freeze right here too.
No, this is good.
This is good stuff right here.
This is very good.
We can work with this.
Now I realize the screen grabs aren't as funny because we're all frozen in a screen grab. It's way funnier in a video where James is just
what do you think James does when he gets frozen? Like now he's back. So like is he just like, oh my gosh, I'm frozen again? Like
probably
what's happening?
There's some curse words.
He's just waiting to be thawed out, and like here he is again. Look at just shaking off a little glitch and right back in 4K. Sorry, James. Continue. You were giving your thoughts on empty calories.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, again, with Christian Wood, it comes down to a player who, it doesn't matter how many points he puts up. When he's on the court, his team is worse. And I think that there are a lot of guys that are like that in the league, and they just put up numbers for numbers' sake. And, like, every team has to have, it has to score, right? So somebody's always going to score on a losing team and all that. But I don't understand, like, when it comes to Sabonis, like the empty calorie thing. Like, to me, it just
So again, don't agree at all
Yeah.
with Vontae Hill, but I only bring that up because I think we're at 16 triple doubles right now, and it's 8-8. I think that's the record, if I'm not mistaken, after Denver and then Oklahoma City, because he had a triple double in both of them. I think the record is 8-8. And it goes back to another conversation I took a beating for was maybe you shouldn't pass so much. Work more on the offensive end. Like you're shooting an incredibly high percentage, and we don't need to rehash this conversation. I think part of the reason Domas isn't getting the respect we think he deserves is that those 16 triple doubles, like I know people trashed Russell Westbrook for what he was doing. That year he averaged a triple double the first time, because he's done it 4. The first time he did it, they were like through a stretch, they were like 42-7, like some absurd number when he had a triple double during a start of that. I'm not going to use it because it fits my argument, but there's a dude who plays in San Francisco who, when he got like 6 years ago, when he was a solid ball player, he'd get triple doubles. Like, that team couldn't lose. I just look at Domas as like, why, because we asked the question, why is Domas not getting appreciated for what he's doing? And I think part of the reason is it's almost like he's doing it out of desperation, because he's lost half of the games that he's gotten a triple double in.
Yeah, but I would make the argument that the Kings don't lose basketball games because of Domantas Sabonis. Like,
no, I don't think they lose basketball games because of Domantas Sabonis. No, don't do that. I think my stance hasn't changed. I think he can do more on the offensive end.
Well, I get he can score more, but I just don't know that that's what this team has. Like, we had the game where they lose to when Kyle was there. Oh, it was Detroit, right? Is that who
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
And
gonna have
he
to
had
ban Kyle from Kings games, by the way.
no, totally.
Record is bad.
Yeah, it's not a good record. He's empty
Yeah.
calories. He cannot come to Kings games anymore.
Yeah, so Domantas got to the rim a couple of times. I think it was twice late in the game, and then he kicked it out once to Trey Lyles for an open 3 and once to Harrison Barnes for an open 3. They missed both of them, and it ended up hurting you. And he realistically should have just like laid the ball up. And it's one of those things where we talk about what points per possession and like sort of these advanced numbers that everybody talks about. Like, if you shoot 40% from the corner 3, because it's worth 3 points, that's worth 1.2 points per possession, right? Well, Domas, if he's wide open at the rim and it's going to be like an 80% or higher shot, he has to understand that it's pretty much 2 points, but it's at least, like, if we're saying he doesn't hit it every time, which he doesn't, he's probably hitting it 80%. And so you're looking at 1.6 points per possession. Like, that is a really, really good shot. And so there's a lot of times where
in my head right now when you do that.
Well, I'm just saying,
I
like,
know what you mean. It's
1.2 shot, 1.2 points for a corner 3, or 1.6 at the rim because he's shooting 80%. Like, he needs to understand that it makes his team better when he actually just puts the ball in the basket. Like, there are times where you have to pass out when you're at the rim just because you're down 6 with, like 30 seconds left and you have to have a 3. But so many other times where I think it's just like, man, just put the ball in the basket. And he's being unselfish. And so I don't think I'm going to fault him for being unselfish. And especially since he's averaging 20 a game and he's leading the league in rebounding and he's averaging like 8.3 assists per game at this point. I just don't know that there's any way to really find fault, or at least a lot of fault, in what Domas is doing. Now, when it comes to like 3-point shots, and not his own, but like opposing teams shooting like the most ridiculous numbers of all time from 3, yeah, Domas is on the floor when that's happening. He needs to not drop into the key and play defense when there's no one to play defense on. He needs to be out supporting his teammates and getting into people's faces and not allowing 3-point shots. But, like, again, he's right now, like, as far as like an offensive weapon and a a rebounding tool. Like, he's one of the most impactful players in the league, and all of the advanced statistics say that. I mean, the guy doesn't make the All-Star team, but you go to NBA.com and he's number 7 on their MVP ladder. It doesn't make any sense. Like, he's that good. And I would say, like, I'm not going to say there's no fault that goes on Domantas Sabonis for the Kings having this season, but like, how many bad
I'm
games
not
has he had?
I'm not looking for fault. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just looking for ways for this team to get better, and I was trying to find an explanation as to why the tremendous season that Domantas Sabonis was having before All-Star selections continues to be. I was trying to figure out why it's getting ignored, and I settled on, like, maybe it's because he doesn't do 30, 20, and 15 games. I think he did one of those. And it was like, I don't think that ever made it anywhere. Maybe it wasn't quite 30, 20, and 15, but it was something along those lines.
Mhm.
Nobody was checking for it. And I was like, maybe they're looking at wins and losses. Shoot, I don't even know if they look deep enough to see if the Kings win or lose games when he gets triple doubles. And Ramsey said he's at 17. I had him at 16. I shorted him one. He's at 17 this year.
Yeah, he's
Yesterday
got
was 17th.
4 in the last 5 games and 5 in the last 7 games. Yeah.
I don't know,
So-
man. It just feels like he's playing, and I mean, maybe it's just guys need to raise up to his level.
Well, so one of the things that I'm thinking about when you talk about the wins and losses with all this is it just says to me, and I once here again, I'm talking through this with everybody. I'm not trying to start an argument or fight or discussion and everything. Is it further validates to me that he's not the best player. He's not the straw that stirs the drink, because I'd love to see what the record or what the stats look like in those losses when for De'Aaron Fox. And I'm just a believer, if this team is great as Domas says, he should be an all-star. He is one of the best centers, one of the best big men in the league. This takes nothing away from him. But this team goes by the way of De'Aaron Fox. And Domas can be as good as he wants to. Malik can be as good as he wants to. Keegan can be as good as he wants to. If Fox ain't locked in and Fox isn't out there playing at a super high level, it's going to be hard for this team to win most nights. And that's kind of what those numbers tell me. So somehow it got drawn all the way back to De'Aaron Fox.
So when I look at his stats, when he scores 24 or more, Sabonis, the Kings are 11-3. So there is something to him scoring more, but I don't know. Like,
that's going to get you jumped in the chat, James.
I'll tell you this.
I got beat up for 2 days for it.
When
probably why that guy wants to fight me on Twitter.
Yeah. Every time he steps off the floor, the Kings feel like they get worse in my book. And it just, that's what I look at. You're looking around like, when are they putting Domantas Sabonis back on the floor? And I know he's not perfect, but the way he shows up every single night, what's he got? 48 double doubles in 52 games this season. Like,
wow.
I mean, he literally is walking in and he's giving you the exact same thing almost every single night. The only reason he doesn't have like 8 more triple doubles is because the Kings went through the whole first half of the season not being able to shoot half the games and having guys like just brick a bunch of shots where he easily would have had a couple of extra triple doubles. So I don't know how else to say it. Like, when I watch him play, there's never a moment where I think empty calories. I think he's fighting. He's a very good position defender. Do people shoot over the top of him? Yes, they do. But the fact that he doesn't block shots, okay. Like, what else is he supposed to do? I mean, the dude's shooting almost 44% from 3. Like, what else do you want him to do? Like, there are no perfect players in the NBA. But like, if you're going to build a low post player that can like run your entire offense and not only set up one guy, but set up everybody. Like, we've seen that too. You've seen, like, where does he get his assists? He gets his assists from everybody, not from one player. This is not, Dak Prescott throwing to CeeDee Lamb 11 or 12 or 13 times a game. This is a guy who gets everybody involved, who shares the wealth, who trusts his teammates, who puts them in positions to win. And when they aren't doing well, he's the guy who's pulling guys aside like Keegan Murray and counseling him through, trying to talk to them, trying to keep their spirits up. Like I just have a tough time. Like anything that's going on this season, I can get through like 14 other things before I get to Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, I don't disagree. He's been phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And you know, it's almost, we talk about all the time, it's probably taken for granted by a lot of people, you know, the way he's playing this year and his consistency
100%.
with this high level of play. All while just kind of playing within the flow. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really go out of his way.
He doesn't go out of his way to get shots.
Yeah. So it's salute to Domas, man. Salute to him. I don't have any qualms with his production. Not saying anybody else does, but I don't have any qualms with his production this year.
Yeah, and Ramsey brings up in the chat, like plus minus in basketball is the most empty calorie stat in the sport. I agree for the most part, but there are nights where the plus minus matches exactly what you're seeing. Like I'll even go back to the last game, right? The last game, the plus minus on De'Aaron Fox was horrible. And to be honest, I thought it would be. Like that's what he looked like on the court. It looked like he was going to have a game, well, where the stats would show that he wasn't very good, and he wasn't. But then at the same time, I thought Harrison Barnes was pretty solid. I remember him going to the line and trying to slow the game down in the second quarter to help his team. He finishes with 14 points and a negative 27. So Fox and Barnes both finished with negative 27s, and Harrison's only plays 22 minutes. He didn't look like he was that bad to me. So sometimes it matches, sometimes it doesn't. And I think it's not a great stat, especially on a game in and game out basis. You need a much longer, like sort of, grouping of game sample size to really make an argument for it.
How about Alex Lynn returning to the lineup like an RKO out of nowhere? And Mike Brown was singing his praises, following the Denver game. I say it all the time, James. Mike's hilarious. Mike say, "Hey, dust your shoes off, big guy." You're getting in there, and man, he was super effective.
Well, and let's go back to the Denver game. That's where he actually earned the minutes, right? He was really good in that game, and JaVale McGee was not. Like right off the bat, you're like, oh no, that's not like he doesn't have it tonight. And like I think that's a good thing about Mike. He's willing to go, oh yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. That's not working. And you have to give Domas a break, and you don't want to go small against Jokic and try Trey Lyles there. So I kind of get what he was doing there. I just like why are we doing this? Why are you coming back to Alex Lynn now? Because Alex Lynn was really effective for like a huge stretch of games, and all of a sudden he falls out of the lineup again right around JaVale's birthday. And so I know Mike wants to keep everybody engaged and all that stuff, but one player makes you a better team. And that doesn't mean that he is a flashy highlight reel guy or that, he gets the crowd on their feet or anything else, because JaVale McGee does do all those things. He's a more exciting player, but I would like, if I'm the Kings and I'm trying to fight through like a really, really erratic season, I'm not going to add more erratic play to my erratic season. I want somebody who's going to go out there and give me pretty consistent minutes every time he's on the floor. And that's what Alex Len has done. And so Mike said he's going to give him a longer shot here. I warned people even when he said he's going to give him a longer shot. Like you understand that, the Kings play OKC, who has no big men. And then they come back and they play against Phoenix, and Phoenix doesn't have any big men. So Alex Len probably won't play hardly all again. But then when you get back to Denver, I would expect Alex Len to see a good amount of time.
Much like everybody else, man. I like his minutes, man. I like when he plays. And it's no shot at JaVale or anybody else.
No, the JaVale thing was funny. JaVale's first, he played 2 minutes in that game. It was like, and normally James loves JaVale McGee. And it was like, oh, God. JaVale, calm down, bro. And I appreciate it. You know what? Alex.
I like Alex.
Alex 50's here.
I like Alex.
Go show out for him. And he played terrific. But JaVale's 2 minutes against Denver are kind of legendary. It's
No
probably
comment.
It's the 2 minutes JaVale played against Denver is why James loves JaVale so much.
Look, how many didn't he shoot a 3-ball with 17 seconds on the clock last week?
Might have happened.
Yes is the answer.
Nah,
After he dropped the ball and it was around his
Hey.
ankles and he was trying to grab it for like
Yeah.
3 seconds, and then finally he got the ball and hoisted a 3 with 17 seconds. Like
He was open.
I don't know why we have to dig into the
he was open,
game
James.
film. Yeah, you know, let
He was
him
open.
live.
Make it rain.
That's why he's Jason Jones's favorite player. Oh,
Yeah, I
man.
just think that, like, you know, again, as he's aged, like, the mistakes are still there, but they're just more glaring. And, like, I don't think there's a way to hide what he does. So, but he's a good leader. He's a big voice in the locker room. He's a nice guy. I just know that it's one of those things that sticks out. Like, every time he's on the court, you have no idea what's coming next.
Fits right in.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Fits right in with the 2023-24 Kings.
You got to get one of these two, don't you, James?
Yeah, you got to split. And if not, you go into the break 6 games over.
You could be an 8th or 9th.
Yeah, you'll be an 8th.
I don't think you could be in 9th. You could be an 8th, depending on what Dallas does.
Yeah, you'll be an 8th.
Oh, God, Dallas is half a game back. Yeah, you could definitely be staring at 8.
Yeah, one of these two. It's not the end of the
That's
world.
That's all I said.
No, I said no. What I'm saying is, if you do, yeah, you get one of these two. It's not the end of the world.
No, I disagree.
You get out of the.
I think you lose both. The world ends.
Well, who knows?
I would also.
Oh,
I'd also point out that so many people like this season, they're like, "Hey, I don't buy it. Like, the second night of a back-to-back, everyone's got to do it. It's such an excuse. I don't want to hear it." Anyone see the Denver Nuggets play on Friday night on the second night of a back-to-back against the Kings? Like, it happens.
OKC was on the second night of a back-to-back too.
They
got their ass kicked the night before.
They were on a second day of a back-to-back day thing. That was weird.
Kings do not like day games.
No.
They do not like day games at all. But Kenny's wrong. The world will end if the Sacramento Kings lose the next
game. Well,
so
it's up to you, Kings.